G'day everyone, welcome to the first tipping video of the year. Today I'm going to be going over my round 1 AFL tips and predictions. I'm super excited to get right into things for this year in the tipping, and for anyone wondering, it'll be pretty similar to how it was last year if you were here for last year's tipping video. I'll obviously go over my predictions, the big calls will return, punishments will return, and I'll also have another tipping com. So if you haven't joined it already, the link will be pinned in the comments as well as being in the description. So let's aim to get 600 members by the start of round 1. I reckon we can definitely do that. It didn't seem like long ago that the Ashes were still on, and now, you know, we've got the footy season just around the corner. So let's get right into the tips. This is going to be a pretty big week of footy, and it all starts off on the Wednesday, 16th of March. Bit of a different fixture start. It's always, you know, Thursday, Richmond, Carlton, but this time around, it's the grand final rematch between Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs at the MCG. Obviously, this is going to be a pretty big game. I think we're definitely going to see a crowd of over 60, probably 70,000 or more. The D's should get up in this one. I feel like they got a little bit more to, you know, prove to their fans, considering that, you know, the D's haven't played in front of their fans in Melbourne for almost a full year. So I think, you know, after winning the flag, I think they'll pull off a pretty good performance. I think it'll be a fairly low scoring tight battle for majority of the game, but then the D's kick away in the last, sort of similar to how it's sort of played off in, you know, the games that the two sides have played last year. But being at the G, I think that's going to drive me to tip the D's in this one, and I think they're going to win it somewhat comfortably, but I'm going to go the D's to win this one by 22 points. And for the big calls, first big call of the year, I'm going to go Oliver and PETRACCA to combine for 65 or more touches. I went for Oliver to win the Brownlow this year, so I think, yeah, they're both going to have a really good start to the season. We'll get 3 and 2 votes respectively. And the next game, we've got Carlton v Richmond. It's a classic, not the first game of the season though. It's Thursday, 17th of March at the MCG. And the Blues are $2.85 odds. I'm a little bit surprised. I thought it would be a little bit more even, but again, a lot of people reckon the Tigers are going to have a big year this year and could bounce back and win the flag potentially. I personally think the Blues are going to have a better year than the Tigers, but it's just whether or not the Blues can break their hoodoo against the Tigers. The last 11 or 12 games, the Tigers have gotten up in all of them against the Blues. And I think I read somewhere that Ed Kerner is the only player playing for the Blues who has beaten the Tigers while still playing for the Blues. So that's a stat you would think they want to turn around, and I reckon if they can win this game, it could kickstart a really good season for the Blues and can propel them into finals. Look, I think it's going to be a very good game, high scoring. It normally is a high scoring affair against these two sides opening round. We don't see it often. We normally just see the Tigers get up by like 4 to 5 goals. I'm going an absolute thriller. Game of the round almost, I'd say. Richmond will win this game by 4 points, and my big call will be that both teams combine for over 200 points. So I reckon it'll be quite high scoring, as it normally is against these two sides. So the next game will be at Marvel Stadium between St Kilda and Collingwood. St Kilda, they need to win this game, let's be real. I don't rate the Pies heading into this season. I tip them to win the Spoon, so it'll be bitterly disappointing if we don't get up in this one. And I think we should comfortably win this game. However, I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I feel like the Pies, particularly round 1, they'll have a bit to prove. They'll come out firing, and I think it's going to be quite a close, contested battle. Quite low scoring. I'm going to go the Saints in this one, my team, and you would think the Saints do get up. But for whatever reason, I don't think we're going to dominate. I think it's going to be close for most of it, and we just kick away in the last quarter. But I will go the Saints to win this one. I think if we don't win it, there's going to be major problems heading into this year. So the Saints win it by 17 points in a fairly close affair, with my big call being that both sides combine for 30 or more behinds. I don't necessarily want that to be the case, considering I want the Saints to be accurate this season, but maybe Collingwood kick the 20 behinds and St Kilda accurate. We never know. So the next game, we've got Geelong taking on Essendon, the first Saturday game at the MCG. And I think this is going to be the annual country round or country match the two sides play each other in. And look, just like pretty much all the other games we've covered so far, it's another game that any side could really win. I feel like for sure the Bombers are capable of winning this game, particularly considering that they play quite well at the MCG, and they normally get the job done in these country games, I feel like. You would think though, heading into this one, that the Cats get the job done. They are the favourites, they got a better list, they're expected to do better than the Bombers this year, but I think the Bombers are might be a scary side this year, and it would not put it past me if they come out firing, which they typically do round 1, to get the job done. And I'm going to go for the first upset so far in this tipping video. I'm going to go the Bombers to get the job done here, and I'm going to go the Bombers to win this one by 12 points. It's going to be a pretty close one, I reckon. My big call will be for the Bombers to kick 6 or more goals in any quarter. I just feel like the Bombers, if they have that 1 quarter of dominance, that could be enough to get them the win in this game. And I'm going to go for a bit of an upset. Bombers get the job done. Now the next game, probably the closest or the toughest game to tip so far in this round. We've got the GWS Giants facing off the Sydney Swans at ACCOR Stadium on the Saturday at 5:10. ACCOR Stadium used to be ANZ Stadium, and I'm pretty sure the reason that they're playing it here is because Franklin's 5 goals away from 1,000. It's going to draw a pretty big crowd, I reckon. Last year, they just faced off in classics, the Giants and the Swans. The Giants got the hold of the Swans twice. The Swans only winning once, but again, this is anyone's game, and I think the Swans are undoubtedly going to have a little bit of their focus on Lance Franklin. They might get in their head. You never know what might happen. I feel like that could play into the Giants' hands, and they could use that against the Swans and, find a way to win this one. The Giants normally beat the Swans as well. I mean, they beat the Swans in the practice match we saw earlier. They are without Toby Green, but the Swans are without Tom Papley, so it almost cancels. They almost cancel each other out, I would say. I think this is going to be a really good game, high scoring as well. But I'll go the Giants in this one. In a little bit of an upset, I think most will probably go the Swans. Giants win this game by 8, but my big call will be for Lance Franklin to kick his 1,000th goal. I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen like in the last 10 minutes of the game. I reckon it'll actually give the Giants a bit of momentum after the stop of play, and that will get them the win, I reckon. So the last game of Saturday, we've got Brisbane taking on Port Adelaide at the GABBA. 2 teams that I think are going to make it quite deep into the finals this year. And I actually did tip the Power for the flag in a bit of a roughie. But, being at the GABBA, Lions are definitely the more favourable team to pick. They don't often drop games at the GABBA. They very rarely do. The Power, on the other hand, they're not typically a great side against the very top sides, particularly away. And at the GABBA, I can't remember the last time Port Adelaide beat them there. I think the last few encounters, the Lions got pretty comfortable wins. I think, the Lions getting players back. You'd expect Cam Raynor to be back in and playing, as well as, the Lions looking really, really good in the pre-season. Look, it's going to be quite hard not to tip the Lions. I can see the Power maybe getting up here, but I think Brisbane realistically should get the job done. And I'm actually going to tip them to win this one by a fair amount. I'm going to go 32 points. I reckon the Lions will control the match and from there just get a comfortable win. Well, my big call being that Charlie Dixon will score 3 or more behinds. Really no reason for me to tip that. I just feel like that could happen. But there's a chance he might not play, and if that's the case, I'll swap Dixon to Georgiades. So it gives me a bit of a chance of getting the big call correct. We move to the Sunday games, and the first game will be between Hawthorn and North Melbourne at the MCG. Now, it's another game that could go either way. North, I don't think will be too bad this season. I think they'll get 7 to 8 wins, but due to the fact that the game is being played at the G, I just feel like that definitely plays into the Hawks' hands. North don't play at the G very often, and I can't actually recall the last time North Melbourne won at the G. Neither side looked very good in the pre-season, but not to really any shock considering that I don't think either side will do very well. But Hawthorn historically do well in round 1. I think they beat Brisbane in round 1 in 2020. They beat Essendon in 2021. I'll go Hawthorn to win it in 2022. But I predict this to be the second game under a kick. I think it'll be another close one, and the Hawks get up by 5 points. Now, for my big call, I'm going to go for something really bloody different, something you've probably never heard before. I'm going to go either team at any break to score a 69 or a 96 for Huntsman. Hawthorn, Huntsman supports the Hawks. 69 or 96 scored at any of the breaks. Honestly, how could I resist with a big call like this? If it happens, it should honestly be worth 2, but I'll count it as 1. Second last game of the round, we've got Adelaide taking on Fremantle at the Adelaide Oval. Now this one, you would expect probably the Dockers to win this one, because I reckon the Dockers are going to be one of the teams on the rise this season and make the finals. But again, Adelaide, they're no easy beaters at home, and I think this one could be a close one. I actually was tossing and turning whether or not I should actually go the Crows. In my squiggle predictions, I went the Crows in a bit of an upset. But looking at the 2 teams on paper, I don't see the Dockers losing this. They typically play quite well against the Crows. I think they've won their last few games against them, even away. So I think Freo get the job done, but I don't think it's going to be an easy win. I reckon it's going to be played out similarly to the Saints-Collingwood game. And I've actually got the same margin. I got Freo to win by 17 points, with my big call being that Michael Frederick and Lockie Schultz combined for 5 or more goals. They both looked really impressive in the pre-season games, particularly Michael Frederick. I think in the first game against the Eagles, he scored like 5 goals. I'm not too sure what he'd scored, but he looked really impressive. And I think he's going to take that preseason form into round 1 and have another good game. Now, the last game of the round, just like in 2021, we've got a bit of a rematch between West Coast and Gold Coast at Optus. It's almost another 50-50 game, honestly. I think the Suns are actually going to do better than the Eagles this year. And even though I don't think West Coast will do well at all this season, it'll be quite hard to see them losing against the Suns at home, especially. I mean, they lost to the North Melbourne last year at home, but against Gold Coast, round 1, you'd expect them to just do everything they can to get a win and maybe give them some momentum for the rest of the year. I've got West Coast winning this one, but it definitely wouldn't put it past me if the Suns get it done. But I just think West Coast a little bit more safe and trustworthy to tip in this game, particularly at home. So I'll go West Coast to win it by 20 points. I think they should get the win. So there we go. Those are my tips. I went for Melbourne, Richmond, St Kilda, Essendon, GWS, Brisbane, Hawthorn, Freo and West Coast. I've gone for a few upsets because I think this is one of the toughest rounds to tip, particularly for an opening round. Round 1's probably the hardest round to tip because you really don't know what to expect from any of these sides heading into this year. But again, I've gone for a few upsets, so hopefully I can get at least 6 out of 9. That would be good. Now, quickly, I will address the big calls and the punishments. I'll bring them back, but I'll alter them slightly. I'll still have to get 3 or more of the big calls correct to avoid a punishment. And just like last year, the punishments will be chosen by you guys. So comment down below a punishment that is appropriate and obviously doable. One that isn't going to get me in trouble either, and one that I can do, you know, for a video. And the top 3 comments with the most likes will be put into a wheel. The one with the most likes will get put in 3 times. The second most likes get put in two times, and the third most will get put in once. So there is a chance that any of the 3 could get picked for the next punishment. Just so it helps me out, rather than doing the punishment that week, I'm gonna wait another week so I've got the time to do it. For example, if I have to do a punishment after round 1, I'm not gonna do it for the round 2 tips, I'll do it for the round 3 tips, so I've got more time. Again, if you want to join the tipping comp, do that. Links will be down below. Prize will be awarded, shout outs will be given every tipping video. And yeah, this is it. It's the start of the footy season. So yeah, expect heaps more videos coming your way as we get right into things for 2022.